Speed paint or express color? Express color, speed paint. Express color, speed paint. Oh. Thanks. I guess we're reviewing Reaper miniatures. Let's talk about Reaper. So Reaper is a miniature game creator in the same sort of vein as Games Workshop, as in they do the miniatures, they do a lot of different kinds of miniatures, and they also have paint and paint accessories. Now, if you're interested in their paint, go check out one of my first videos. There's on my painting tips, and I talk about the paint color there, but they're great, is the short version. But we're chatting about the miniatures today. Now, we're going to cover all three of their major ranges, which are metal minis, the Bones miniatures, and their regular plastic range. And as you can see, I got the boosters here as well. So let's get into it. I can tell you want to paint with the miniature man. Okay, so the range itself. What do we have going on here? Well, Reaper's got a pretty vast theme of ranges. So, you know, we got some mechs here, we got some pop culture ones. We've got, well, yeah, this is also pop culture, and we've got some stand fantasy and some more sort of space-based ones. So they've got a large variety of stuff, and as I said, they come in metal, plastic, and bones. Now, bones is the really interesting one, because I believe these were the first company that sort of did these miniatures. So, what are bones? Well, basically, you don't need to prime them. They also generally come pretty much as they do. And if there's any damage done to them, you can fix it by just heating up the miniature. But we'll get into that when we're talking about customization and all that kind of stuff. So, now the D&D miniatures also sort of do this bone style stuff. But this was after Reaper had done it. And as you can see, Reaper are also the official miniature providers of Pathfinder. So that's pretty cool. If you don't know what Pathfinder is, it's basically the offshoot of D&D. So I prefer it personally, but you know, to each their own. Yeah, so the Reaper range is pretty impressive, ranging all the way from high sci-fi, including mechs, all the way down to low fantasy, including Neanderthals. That being said, if you're a person who likes their mass battles with huge amounts of miniatures, Reaper might not be the best bet for you, since most miniatures come in sets of 2. A lot of them come in sets of 1. You can buy some sets that can get up to 8 or 10 miniatures, but they're generally sort of like a line. You can also buy off their website their complete sort of release catalog. They have sort of like releases, so you can buy the full release set as well as an option. But once again, you don't really get an army full of guys. You get a copy of each miniature that's come out. So yeah, if you're looking for skirmish games or RPG miniatures, Reaper's got you covered. Also Battletech as well. They have a Battletech style game called CAV, C-A-V, all capitalized, and that does look pretty cool. I may cover it in the future, but yeah, so that's your options. Let's get on to Sculpts Customization.
What is your business here?
The Sculpts and Customization, where do we sort of stand on them? Well, the great news is that I personally think the Sculpts are fantastic, from the pop culture, Dr. Evils, to the fantasy orcs, all the way up to our mech friends. I think they all sort of, have a really nice look to them. And they have a nice feel, they look great, they're full of character. I find they have a very fun time with a lot of this stuff, and you're never really dissatisfied with how the miniatures look, which is great. And the good news is that almost regardless of what the sculpts are made of, they come out looking good. So you're not going to be like, oh man, their metal miniatures are clearly better looking than their bones miniatures, or the plastic ones are the best looking miniatures. No, all of these miniatures look pretty good for what they are. Obviously, depending on how you feel about metal minis, you might want to go plastic. There's a lot more plastic than there used to be, but there's still quite a lot of metal ones as well, so keep an eye out for that. Now, these mechs, they only come in plastic now, Sorry guys, this one's metal for me. I will say though that the Bones miniatures tend to sort of come as is. So they just sort of have the one pose, that's it. There are some Bones miniatures that come with parts, but generally they are slightly larger ones, but most Bones minis just come as a single pose, which means if you don't like the look of the pose, well, tough shit basically. Now that being said, we're also going to address another thing, customization. Now, even if you are getting ones like this guy, this Mouseling Heavy Soldier that comes in multiple parts, he's still not exactly customizable. Like, obviously you can sort of change how he's standing and where his weapons are pointing, but for the most part, you get the parts that come in the packet. You don't get a whole bunch of different parts that you can pick from. Nor can you sort of angle things on a certain angle. You know, you can't have a soldier and have his gun. You know, if the soldier's like meant to be standing like this, that's what he's going to be standing like with the parts. Unlike something like Space Marines, where you could take a soldier and have him like, you know, angling back, loading a clip in or something along the lines of that. That is a problem. Now, for basic hobbyists, I think you'll be fine. They look good. You won't have a problem. But for our more advanced guys, I think they're going to struggle sort of being able to, you know, alter slightly what things are doing. Now, the great thing is that you can always crack out the putty or the drain stuff, but obviously that's not really the company offering customization either. So yeah, customization a bit of a... But overall, I think the sculpts still look good, and it's pretty clear that you can just sort of pick what you wish. You know, you don't have to... If you don't like this guy, you don't have to buy him, right? You can just move on with life. That being said, though, they do have enough detail that you're fine. Once again, the great thing I love about Reaper is they, like many companies, they have that line. The line that goes, we don't want to really make them so complicated that you're ripping your hair out. But they're not too simple either. So, like, for example, the Dr. Evil guy, which you'll get more close up. Sorry about the crappy paint job on him, but look, he does the part, he's got a monocle, he's got the white cat. He doesn't have 1,000 belt pouches or anything like that. It's all good. He's got exactly what he needs to be recognizable as a Blofeld or a Dr. Evil. And then if we have a look at this skeleton, for example, this skeleton archer, you know, he's got exactly what he needs. He's a skeleton, he's got a little base, he's got his bow, he's got his arrows on the back.
What is your business here?
Let's talk about the quality. So I've never really had a problem with the quality of Reaper miniatures. They've always all come out really good. Now, obviously, there is always the problem of metal minis losing detail over time because of the molding process. You know, silicon starts losing its shape after you dump enough molten metal into it. Just like the T1000, it melts eventually. Now, that being said, I have heard through the grapevine that there have been some issues with some people on, you know, the metal miniature front, but Reaper's always pretty quick to be on that and send out any replacements that may need to happen, so you're covered there. You know, they'll make sure that you get the right stuff. I've had zero problems with the plastic range. They've all come out great, no broken parts, nothing like that. Now, the Bones miniatures. This is where I've run into some issues. Now, they are fixable issues, so that's great. You know, a lot of the time, if they sit in their packet for too long, now this one's got a nice big gap here, but if you look at, say, for example, this Pathfinder miniature, you may notice that she's pretty packed in there. And while, actually, in fact, you may notice that her staff is, in fact, bent. Now, this is an easy fix. It's not a big deal, and this happens sometimes in transport, or if they just sit on your shelf for too long and they bend out of shape. So what you do is you just get some hot water. I think boiling is what they say, but there's a direction on their website, and you just sort of dip the part in for a few seconds, and then you can bend it back into shape. Now, be careful, because you are dealing with boiling water. I don't want anyone to be like, "Vamps, I burnt my fingertips clean off." Yeah, be careful. I mean, you don't have to shove your hands in the boiling water. And if you do have to do that to bend it back into shape, wear protection. Like many things in life, wear protection. Seriously. Make sure you're protected. Now, of course, that's not a massive deal breaker for me. but I do understand that it is an extra step that you may need to take, so it's got to be something that I knock a couple points off for, because really at the end of the day, you know, you got to take the good and the bad with certain ranges, and Bones, you know, sometimes they have the bad.
Incoming transmission.
Ah, it's me, Flint Rustbeard, and what you always need is some allies to join you in your fight against the scum of the galaxy, like the rats, the humans, and even the elves, especially the elves. Now, if you want to join a good fight, join Count Vamps' channel with a like and a subscribe, and make sure you drop a comment, cause he's always up for a chat, and if you don't, you'll meet me axe and me gun.
What is your business here?
Painting them minis. What do these like to paint? Well, they're fun. I very much enjoy them. Once again, striking that enough detail to paint, but not have like 20 different paints on your paint palette for one model. You know, so you know, some of them have pouches, some of them knives, grenades, crystal balls, potions, but you're never gonna find a guy with all of them. So that's great, and it's always nice to have those little, you know, little extra things: monocles, cats, quivers, shields, all good stuff. Also, the sculpts have the great thing that they're not really too hard to reach places in them. Reaper's definitely thought these miniatures out. There's no one doing like some type of weird pose like this where it's like, oh, how the hell am I going to get into these sections? They've all got dynamic poses that look cool, but also allow you to actually get in and paint the miniatures. It's almost like they make single part miniatures or something like that. Now, that being said, of course, different miniatures have different things. So the metal minis, of course, you're going to need a good prime on those suckers, but otherwise they'll paint fine. If you don't prime, you'll be painting the melting face man from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, you know, keep that in mind. Plastic, of course, are always fine. Prime, paint, done. No fuss or muss there. Now, finally, Bones. Bones is the big one here. Once again, Bones seems to be getting the most love, but that's because like the metal and the plastic minis are pretty much your stock standard sort of metal and plastic minis, which is great. Bones, on the other hand, sort of their standout range. Now, I'm a bit dubious on one of the claims here. So one of the claims with Bones is that you don't need primer. Now, I found on some models it works. It has worked fine. In fact, here's one right here. Yeah, that's this skeleton. Has had 0 primer on it. Now, I did ink it afterwards, of course. But overall, that was fine. But then I've had a few other miniatures that they really needed a prime. Like it turns out that when you don't prime something, you've got to do much more heavy lifting on it. It's surprising just how much a priming layer does lift a model up, particularly with that shadow and recesses and stuff like that. Now, that being said, you can absolutely get away with just slapping paint on these guys. Speed paint included, by the way. You can just speed paint these suckers and they will end up looking table ready. You just got to be really accurate with your speed paints. But I will say that, yeah, if I don't prime first, I always find myself a little unsatisfied. The skeleton being the only one that I've really been fully satisfied with. Otherwise, they do paint up pretty much the same. So it's really up to you. And of course, they have those nice chunky poses, so you don't need to worry about little gaps, as I said. And I think that's pretty much what I've got to say about painting these guys. They're good. Like, the sculpts are smartly done, and they take paint pretty well. Bones, without priming, take it with a grain of salt.
We will meet again.
So I love Reaper miniatures, guys. They have a great range, they look good. I'm a fan of the bases, which they have these really cool sort of like recessed bases. They don't have it on everyone now. They actually mostly just have pre-done bases, but they had these really nice deep bases. That was great. And the big thing that I think is that it's not bad on the wallet. These things are great. Like, for example, this guy who is the Fly, like Jeff Goldblum the Fly, he's like $5. Yeah, most normal miniatures, most regular size miniatures, we're looking at like $5 to $10 per miniature. Now, sometimes you get 2 in the box too, so you get, you know, double for that. That's great. The most expensive miniature on the website is, in fact, Ma'al Drakar, the Dragon Tyrant, who is $150. Yeah, and just for the record, if you're wondering how big that guy might be, he's 18 inches tall. Which is about that. A pretty decently sized miniature for 150 bucks. Now, that being said, if you want the super duper super rare Ultra Edition that's been pre-painted by the Reaper staff, that is 400 bucks. But you're not going to break the bank to get a skirmish army up and running with these guys, unless for some reason you do want the pre-painted version of Ma'al Drakar. But otherwise, you can get these guys and you can field an army pretty quick. Or, of course, use them in RPGs, Pathfinder. I think that overall, I just really like these guys. Good prices, good sculpts. They do paints and they do paint accessories, so you can get everything all in the one location. They even do boxes. These two figures come in a starter box that comes with a set of, I think it's, I want to say 15 paints, but you get paints, you get 2 brushes, and you get these 2 miniatures to practice on. Like, that's a good deal, and also that's like, it's like 30 bucks or something like that. I paid a grand total of $40 for all these guys because I got them from a lucky dip, which is pretty good because some of these guys are actually worth up on the upper end of the $10 scale. Their mechs cost like $8. It's cheaper than MechWarrior, that's for sure. Like, it's cheaper than Battletech, and Battletech is cheap. Now, that being said, the great news for all you people out there is you don't need a 3D printer on this one, and you don't need to worry about getting someone else to 3D print it for you either. These come straight off the shelf, so I kept my promise. I did a range where you can just go buy them off the shelf, and you can. If I can find them in Australia, you can find them. So anyway, guys, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. But I will see you on the next video. Catches.